I've been an iPhone guy for over a decade, but more recently, I've been a fan of these Android emulation handhelds. Android is a great platform for playing retro games. That's why all these Chinese manufacturers choose Android for high-powered, compact mobile game consoles. Now that we have ways to play Steam games on Android, suddenly their usefulness has gone through the roof. Previously, with retro games, we reached a little bit of a ceiling. The hardware has been so powerful that retro games just aren't demanding enough to make use of all of it. PC games on Android require a ton of power, obviously. And what are the most powerful Android devices that are out there? I think it's the flagship phones. Hear me out. This thing doesn't have a fan in it like some other devices. It doesn't have all the gaming bells and whistles. But chip manufacturers make their products for these flagship phones specifically. So I would think that these would be the cream of the crop. And that's why I spent $1,300 of my own goddamn dollars on the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra, just because I wanted to see something. Also, I lose sight of the fact that half of my audience are Android users. So whenever I talk about playing PC games on Android or I talk about these Android emulation handhelds, I forget that half of you guys already have all of that power in your pocket anyway. You can play all those games right with the device you're probably watching this on right now. Some of these Android handhelds have very similar specs to this S26 Ultra. This Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset is in some of these other handhelds, but the drivers are not all that great. Compatibility is kind of all over the place with these. We need bigger brands like Samsung to start using this powerful Snapdragon 8 Elite chip so that they can develop drivers that can then be extracted and published by independent developers. Or instead of waiting for these independent developers to extract these drivers, I could just spend $1,300 of my own money and try it. It's actually pretty cool. You know what? The results are very interesting. This thing is an absolute beast in a lot of ways. It gets some pretty insane benchmarks and is capable of some pretty intensive PC games right from your Steam account, as well as, of course, Android gaming, if you're into that. So it sure is powerful. In some cases, it is more powerful than these other handheld gaming devices that have the same chipset. And in other ways, it's a little bit less stable. I thought that was pretty interesting. So yeah, it turns out you can have quite the gaming setup with you at all times. I was expecting this thing to be a powerhouse, but now I'm kind of liking this thing for reasons I wasn't expecting. Who knew I could be playing some of my Steam games right from my pocket just like this? This video is sponsored by Holzkern. I told you this trail was awesome. Yeah, it's cool, but we haven't run into any cool animals yet. Oh, I got just the thing. I got an app on my smartwatch that does nature calls. What the hell was that? I don't know, actually. Oh, it's a jack-footed dingbat. Is that the poisonous one? Well, you better figure that out. Don't worry about it. It says they don't come out till 4. And what time is it? You have a watch right there. It's frozen. All right, it's 3:58. All right, turn that thing off. It's not me! It's not me! It's frozen! Just kidding, it's not frozen. All right, it was me. It was me. I'm gonna scream. I got you. Holzkern creates unique watches and jewelry from wood, stone, and metal. No two pieces are ever the same. Each piece is crafted in small batches shaped by natural grains and carries its own story. Bring a piece of nature with you wherever you go. We got the Morsacco made with maple and the Gaudy made with walnut. These came just in time for the wedding we had to go to. Look at us, we look so cute. Backed by 10 years of craftsmanship, Holzkern products come with a 2-year warranty. Click the link below and use code Wulff Den to get 15% off your whole Holzkern order today. Get yourself a nice little watch for yourself. Man, that is a nice watch. Thanks. We should get going. It's gonna get pretty dark soon. See, this is why I have a smartwatch. We gotta go. Yeah? Sorry, I just got a text. What's benign mean? That's the good one. Oh, thank God. Is it bad if it's not? Anyway, this isn't gonna work while you phone. It's this way. Oh, does your watch do GPS too? No, I'm just not an idiot. Oh. The last time I had a Samsung Galaxy phone was the Samsung Galaxy S2. That was in 2011. That was 15 years ago. And that's why my beard is gray now. So I'm a bit behind on Samsung phones. As a decade-long iPhone user, but somebody who's still familiar with the Android operating system, I have to tell you, this phone is like awesome in a lot of ways. The screen is super high resolution, although I keep it in the middle because I don't want these games to like completely burn up my phone. It's also OLED, and it's also capable of 120 hertz, which can be cool sometimes in some lower powered games, but we're really not hitting 120 with all the stuff we're playing. The privacy screen is cool, but what the hell are you doing on your phones in public that you need to shield it from other people so badly? I set it to only do the privacy screen on notifications, but I don't get notifications on here, so that's kind of useless to me. The camera's cool. Locking the stabilization when you're taking a video is cool. Whoa. But the absolute coolest thing about this phone is this S Pen. Why is nobody talking about the S Pen? It's been in other Galaxy phones like the Note. It's been in the S Ultra series phones since the S22 Ultra, but I've never even touched any of those phones. It has a damn cursor, and it's in the phone. It's always with you. It just pops out from the bottom like a DS. So, DS games are amazing. You don't even need to bring a controller with you. Using Melon DS, I didn't even really have to set anything up. It just worked. The only thing I had to do was turn off the controller overlay, but that's it. Melon DS even pulled my save file that I had in the same folder as my ROM. This is my actual DS save from my actual DS copy of Kirby's Canvas Curse. I pulled it using a hacked 3DS. I have a whole old video on that. It's worth doing if you have a 3DS and DS games. I got the S26 Ultra with 12 gigabytes of RAM and only 256 gigabytes of storage, which is fine for a phone, but not really when you're trying to load it up with Steam games. But also, some Android games these days are huge. Genshin Impact takes up 42 gigs. What the hell's with that? And this phone does not have a micro SD card slot at all. That's kind of a huge bummer. They got room for an S Pen. They don't got room for a micro SD card slot. That means I'm going to have to basically keep deleting all of the games that I'm testing and downloading new ones. That's going to be very annoying. I did think about plugging in an external hard drive, which wouldn't be too hard, but I want to get the most performance possible while I'm testing all of this stuff. So I want to use the internal storage. But if you wanted to use this as a gaming device, consider some sort of external storage or getting the 512 gigabyte model. But I spent too much money already, so I'm not doing that. This phone benchmarked better than any Android device I've ever tried by like a decent amount. Even the Odin 3, which had more RAM to play with. This is sort of what I was expecting. Even though these other devices have similar chipsets, sometimes even slightly more powerful stuff in there, this just has better software. Some of the time. There is no built-in performance mode. There is a game mode that tries to automatically detect if you're playing a game, but it only automatically works with games that you get off the Play Store. I had to manually set it to work with apps that I downloaded. And even then, it really didn't seem to do anything at all. There is another separate Samsung app that you have to download called Good Lock. And inside Good Lock, you can download the Game Booster Plus app. And inside of that app, you can set which games you want to have a little Game Booster overlay button on. With this overlay, you can set a performance mode toggle. This got us a very slightly more performance in 3D Mark benchmark tests. But I'm just not really sure this is all that necessary. In fact, I would probably advise against using any sort of game boosters at all. I don't think they really did anything. But also, this thing has kind of wildly varying performance. There were a couple of benchmark tests that I did that were outliers. They were performing way lower than most of the other benchmark tests. This also happened during some gameplay, some wild dips. I suspect that this device has some pretty heavy thermal throttling going on. And this is where Samsung software fails against these other Android handhelds that are more geared towards gaming. It would be nice to have a gaming option that would actually circumvent this or actually do something. Or at the very least, just let me know if the thing's getting a little too hot. It never actually got too hot to the touch. It maybe got like a little warm, but it never felt like it was like burning up or anything. I didn't feel the need to turn it off at any point. My iPhone has gotten hotter than this playing Resident Evil Village. You should never really be playing games on here at maxed out settings and uncapped frame rates. Anyway, I'm just doing that because I'm doing a lot of testing on here. This thing is still highly capable and doing way better than I thought it would have. But if you're doing the same stuff that I'm doing, you're going to want to mitigate the frame rates. You're going to want to cap it so that you don't experience any slowdown when you're playing the game for a decent amount of time. For the purposes of this video, I'm really not all that impressed by native Android games. There are plenty of fantastic games on the Google Play Store. Some of them have really impressive graphics too, but they're just not all that technically demanding. A lot of these great looking Android games can run on hardware that's years old and it looks basically the same. Call of Duty Mobile gets me a locked 60 frames per second the whole time. The setting to uncap the frame rate is on and VSync is off. I'm not really sure why it's locked at 60. I even have the game booster set to 120 hertz. But none of that really matters. It looks and runs totally fine, and it's fast and fluid with no problems, obviously.
Enemy contact. That's your killer.
Grid Legends looks beautiful, but runs at a locked 40 frames per second. Unless you switch the graphics to performance mode, then it still looks just as good, but now runs at an almost locked 60 frames per second, only dipping down a little bit very rarely. Genshin Impact is very smooth, staying at 60 frames per second no matter what's going on screen. Changing the frame rate settings from 30 to 60 FPS gives you a warning that your phone might explode. So I guess just keep an eye on it. I didn't experience any issues though. As for controllers, you can use pretty much any Bluetooth or USB-C controllers. I polled my chat and they seemed to use Xbox controllers, and that's totally fine. If you got one of those laying around, that works great. There's other telescoping controllers that might be a little better for turning the phone into something more akin to a handheld. The GameSir G8 is what I've been using. There's also the Razer Kishi Ultra. That's a very good one too. Also the Scuff Nomad, but that one connects via Bluetooth, so I don't know how I feel about that one. That means you gotta charge it. There's also the Pocket Taco that I did a video on last week for certain games. That's very good. Obviously, you can emulate games pretty great on here. I downloaded RetroArch just to try games with the Pocket Taco. That all runs great. Again, this isn't very impressive because they're all low-powered games, but it is kind of cool to be able to have this entire library at your disposal with a very tiny controller like this. It's a very minimal setup that's very easy to take with you. And playing up to GameCube games works pretty flawlessly with even just the drivers that came with the phone. Not much tinkering required at all. At the top end of the emulation totem pole, Switch emulation using the Eden emulator is also pretty great on this device. Mario Kart 8 feels like I'm playing on a Switch with just the system drivers again. Mario Odyssey with just the system drivers runs fantastic too. I'm always impressed when I can get this game running on anything that's not a Switch. Just to really test things though, I switched the driver to the latest Mr. Purple turnip driver. This was suggested to me to get the most performance out of this Snapdragon chip that's in here. And it kind of works. I noticed slightly more stable frame rates, but there were already good frame rates before. And now there's horrible checkerboarding in the game unless you change the resolution in the Eden settings. I cranked it up to 1.25 resolution because this phone can more than handle it. This fixed the checkerboarding, but introduced some other graphical artifacts. These are minor, but I really don't think they're worth the trade-off. Just stick to the system driver. For Switch games, you might want to test both the system driver and the latest turnip drivers. A game like Monster Hunter Rise is a game that I could never get to run. Here, with the turnip Mr. Purple drivers, it runs, but it doesn't look great. Believe it or not, this is actually an improvement. I haven't even gotten this far in the game with any other device. I don't have a copy of Pokemon ZA to test, but this guy got Pokemon ZA working on a phone in a kiosk at the store, so that should be easy enough to set up. So Switch emulation is mostly fine on here. Most of the library is going to run just fine, almost like you're playing it natively. We're just pushing it to its absolute limits. So there's going to be some games that don't look so good. For PC games, we're using Game Native, which is an app that allows you to download and play games from your Steam library with cloud saves from Steam and now even Steam achievements. It's an amazing app that just gets better and better every week. But at first, no games would work. I was having a hard time getting anything going with Game Native. Just searching around the Game Native Discord, I found the Mr. Purple drivers that were suggested. And then all of a sudden, games started working. That was right when this phone came out. So of course, there's going to be some lag between the phone coming out and people getting Game Native to work. The only other setting that I changed was I turned Show FPS on and I cranked the frame rate, which I don't recommend anybody do. I only did that for testing purposes. And I set the box preset to performance. Now, Hollow Knight Silksong seems to work just fine. I get around 120 frames per second, but after a bit of playing, it seemed to fluctuate pretty rapidly between like 80 frames per second and 180 frames per second. This is that thermal throttling I was talking about. And again, I would just suggest locking this game at 60 frames per second. Your phone's GPU will thank you. There's no reason to play Hollow Knight Silksong on a damn phone above 60 frames per second. I'm just doing it to see what's going to happen. The Mr. Purple driver isn't going to be perfect for every game. You're going to want to mess around with it. For example, Neon White only ran at 50 frames per second with these settings, and there were some pretty obvious graphical glitches like the cards flashing. After switching back to the system driver, there were no graphical glitches, and I was getting about 150 frames per second. Then after a while it stabilized and I was down to 100 frames, which is still amazing because don't forget, this is a phone. Skyrim also had some issues with the Mr. Purple driver, some wildly varying frame rates. It was kind of unplayable. Then I found the 8E Gen 5 driver. That ran mostly stable at around 40 frames per second. That's probably the way to go with Skyrim. Cyberpunk, believe it or not, we got to run, but that was only with this Adreno driver, and it was not like actually playable. I was getting less than 10 frames per second. No other drivers even loaded the game up. It's kind of silly to expect Cyberpunk to work on a phone anyway, but some people get it to work by lowering the resolution and tweaking a lot of other settings. I can never get it to work as good as they do. The Resident Evil 2 demo showed similar performance to what I saw on the Odin 3, the most powerful Android handheld right now. The Mr. Purple driver ran good and got good frame rates, but there were lots of glitches. So I'm just shooting B-roll and I'm playing this again using Game Native, and I'm getting 40 to 50 frames, sometimes even higher, with the 8E Gen 2 drivers. So I guess your mileage may vary a little bit. Sometimes you might be getting some pretty good frame rates here. Maybe something was off the other day. Yeah, this is running light years better all of a sudden. So the thesis of this video was that the drivers are what's going to bring this thing over the edge. The software here is what's going to make this more powerful than any other phone that's out there. But it turns out that software might also be making it less stable. I thought I can get a game like Resident Evil Requiem to work on here, but it doesn't even load. It doesn't even like open the game. And that was going to be my big, look at this. Look at how powerful this phone is. The Red Magic 11 Pro, that's a phone that has a very similar chipset. I think it has like way more RAM, and look at this, ETA Primes got Resident Evil Requiem going. I think it also has a fan in it. I also do not understand how he's getting this frame rate, because I bet you if I tried to do that, even on a Red Magic 11 Pro, whatever, it would probably still have issues, because every time I try to copy somebody's Game Hub settings, something's messed up. I have a Red Magic 8, I think, and that has a fan in it, and that's a very good phone, but it's a couple years old now, and I'm not spending another $1,000 on another phone for this experiment. This is still the most powerful Android device that I've ever played with, It's not the most powerful because we know some other things would probably perform like slightly better. But there are other reasons why I like this thing and why I don't have so much buyer's remorse. It is just a good phone. Not all of the like powerful gaming phones are like good phones. Also, playing games on here really is still really good. Even if I couldn't get Resident Evil Requiem, the game that just came out, to work on here. One game I was really excited to play on here was Slay the Spire 2. That game just came out. It's in early access, and I played it a little bit, and I really liked it and would like it in a more portable form factor. However, it does not work with Game Native. Again, it just came out. I'm sure the Game Native devs will get right on it and have a fix for it. But there is someone who published a launcher that's just for Slay the Spire 2 over on GitHub. You just download that APK, log into your Steam account, and it just downloads all of your files and the cloud saves and everything. And it just plays, and it plays perfectly. And we got stylus support, and it's awesome. It's so much better than using your finger because your finger blocks the cards so you can't even read them. Also, the fact that this stylus works like a cursor means you can direct the cards a lot easier. Your finger like kind of can't do that. This game really isn't set up for touch support. I wasn't able to play this game on my Windows laptop, even with the stylus that I got for it, because that stylus doesn't act like a cursor, so I can't drag the cards around. You have to click and then move the mouse and then click again. But this stylus, this S Pen, does move like a mouse. So having this pen here makes this the perfect Slay the Spire device. The perfect $1,300 Slay the Spire device. I have to remember that people are probably getting this as a phone too. Believe it or not, this game has the most of my playtime on here. I've already spent hours playing this game on the Galaxy S26 Ultra, and it runs absolutely flawlessly with the default settings. The text is maybe a little tiny for my old eyes, so I increased the UI size by like 10%. I really just hold the phone really close to my face, and it's fine. This is also like not a very demanding game, so it can handle it just fine. It also doesn't tank the battery life all that much. As a phone, I would expect this battery life to be really good. Maybe anecdotally, you'd get around a day and a half, maybe 2 days of battery life on a full charge if you're really stretching it. As a gaming device, I got somewhere between 4 or 5 hours when I was doing my benchmark tests, which are really intensive tests. So I wouldn't expect anybody to do that like in the real world. So that's actually kind of impressive. If you're limiting your frame rates or playing games that maybe aren't using the full potential of this thing, you could probably stretch that to like 6 to 8 hours of battery life, which is still very good considering this is a little tiny phone. So I went into this expecting the software and the drivers to take this chipset and bring Android gaming up to a whole new level. And it does that in some ways, but it nerfs itself with that suspected thermal throttling. What I was not expecting was how I would be enjoying my games on here. Just using the stylus has been a game changer for me. I don't even need to bring a controller for the games that I'm playing on here. I also just wasn't expecting to like this as much as I do just as a phone to have, which is a problem for me because I'm an iPhone user and I'm in a lot of group chats, and I will not be the one with the green texts. I am not going to be the one that breaks up the whole group chat. I'm sorry. But I did get a prepaid eSIM that's data only. So I think I'm now one of those two phones guys. Sometimes I have a handheld in my pocket. Sometimes I have a controller in my pocket. Well, we'll see what it's like having just a whole nother phone in my pocket. An Android phone like this is a lot more versatile than an iPhone. And with the development of these apps and these drivers and everything, it should only get better and better from here. Next weekend, I'll be at PAX and I'm doing a signing, and look on their website, they did alphabetical order by first name, and me and Zim are right there at the top. But yes, next Friday, apparently, at 4 o'clock, go to PAX. I'll see you at PAX East. See you there. And if you're one of the first like 100 or so, I'll give you a little doodad or tchotchke. How about that? What do you guys think about me being an Android guy now? No, what do you think about the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra and all these games that are playing on it? I am very impressed by the power that's in here and what it's able to play. And then I keep reminding myself of how much money I spent on it. And then I'm not so impressed anymore. I could have bought a whole laptop. Leave it in the comments below. At me on Twitter, any and all of this other social media garbage. We got new videos here all of the time. We got a podcast. These are all of the podcast patrons over here on the bottom of the screen. Oh, thank you, Holzkern, for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check them out. The link in the description. The most important thing you can do to help support this channel, please, is subscribe right here. If you've seen more than one of my videos, make sure that that button is subscribed to, and share this video with a friend. Maybe you want to convince them to switch from iPhone to Android. Maybe you want to tell them that the phone that they got was a good idea. And maybe they'll start thinking of things they can do with their brand new Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. I'm surprised I'm nailing that name every time. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good one.